How do you strength train for rock climbing? Watch this.
Our next caller is Wade from Colorado.
Wade, what's happening? How can we help you?
You in a war,
guys?
Is that a war room? Where are you at? What is that?
Is that sales room, your professor?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Conference room at work.
Okay.
All right. Cool. How can we
I
help
wanted
you?
I wanted to be in Mind Pump kickback mode when I talked with you guys.
yeah, you look nice and relaxed.
Right on. What you got for us?
So first, I want to give you an update. I talked to you guys about a year ago. You gave me some great advice. I put on 10 pounds of muscle at age 49.
Hell yeah.
Wow.
Boom.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, super awesome. So best progress I've had in a decade. So thank you guys for that.
That's great.
So my question is, I'm looking for a training program to run concurrently with a rock climb training program. And what the rock climbing program does is it focuses all on the skill and technique. What it doesn't do, it doesn't have any free weights in it. It's all basically like finger strength, that sort of thing. And where I'm lacking is what we call the approach to the climbs, which is steep hiking, a lot of gear on your back, water, that sort of stuff. And I'm finding my right quad, for whatever reason, especially on the descent, is fatiguing a lot. I think it's a vastus lateralis, but just to be a little more specific. Anyway, I've got basically three things I think that are happening. I had a ACL replacement on the left side, so I think maybe I'm favoring my left a little bit. So maybe I'm putting more on my right. Maybe some imbalance. My squat rack, the way it's set in my garage, the left side of the floor is slightly higher than the right. So I was maybe, technically going deeper or shifting in that. So I've tried to counter that by putting my right foot on a little bit of a lift just to try to keep that a little more even. And then the third thing is I seem to be really posterior dominant. So I'm looking for ways to address that. One thing I've done since I sent in this question, I already started running anabolic. I did pre-phase and I'm in phase 1 now, but I swapped out the conventional deadlifts for trap bar deadlifts because that seems like that activates my quads a little more. But other than that, anything I do lower body, I never really feel it in my quads. So with that being said, any advice you guys have or any other questions?
Yeah. Well,
I want to know a little bit more about the training for the rock climbing. Like what's the frequency of that? Are you doing that 3 days a week, 2 days a week? Like what's it look like?
So what I'm doing right now, so when I went through anabolic, and the reason I picked that is because the rock climbing is in 4 phases, and the first phase is kind of an endurance phase. So I did that with pre-phase because I thought they kind of matched up. I don't know if that matters, but I'm trying to match like the strength phase with the strength phase, et cetera, et cetera. But basically trying to do anabolic 2 days a week and the rock climbing 2 days a week.
Is this indoor or outdoor?
Outdoor, but a lot of the training is indoor because it's hangboarding. But when we're actually in season, we're outside.
And how long?
And that's where hiking.
How long are you rock climbing for? So twice a week you're rock climbing. How long is that?
Like in a training session, or where we're actually outside climbing?
Both. Like so, whatever you do during your week with rock climbing, what does that look like?
So it depends, but so in the training, what I did with pre-phase was that's where you actually go to a rock climbing gym and you get on a wall and you just climb up and down it for almost as long as you can hang on. So about 5 to 10 minutes, then you rest 10 minutes, 5 minutes, just a few sessions of that.
Okay, good. Okay, so and how serious are you about the rock climbing? Because that'll influence how I answer this question. Is this like a hobby, or are you like I really want to maximize my rock climbing performance?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to, you guys had Tommy Caldwell on the show a long time ago. Like, I'm never going to be at that level. It's just basically, there's kind of this threshold where you get to like this intermediate to intermediate advanced level where you can really separate yourself from other people. Not so much in your skills, that's part of it, but you can get away from people because people can't climb that stuff. So I'm only trying to bump it up a little bit. So it's not like my sport. It is my hobby, but we do it year round. We do ice climbing in the winter, but it's recreational, I guess I should say.
Okay. So obviously nothing's going to get you better at rock climbing than rock climbing. Okay. Practicing rock climbing. As far as exercise is concerned, strength is always important, But when you're rock climbing, you're now playing a bit of a different game because this is more about strength to weight ratio than it is strength. Okay. So, let's say you gain 10 pounds of lean body mass, but your strength doesn't go up in proportion to that, or it does. Let's say it does go up in proportion. You're at the same place you were before. You're just bigger, right? Or maybe the ratio changes in the negative. And this can happen when you start to gain a lot of muscle mass. You don't look like a small guy. You look like you've got a decent amount of muscle on you. So gaining muscle at this point for rock climbing may be a negative because you're bigger and stronger, but now you're heavier. And that can take away from your ability to perform at rock climbing. So you want to consider that. And then the other thing with your training that's very important is to work on mobility. If you'll notice, because I've trained a few rock climbers, the ability to reach your leg up and stretch across and get different grips and position your body is so important in rock climbing. It's more important than almost any other physical attribute. Of course, you want stability, strength, all that stuff, but if your mobility lacks to where you can't get a foot position because you can't bring your leg to that position, then that's going to hamper your ability to do the sport. So mobility training is going to be crucial for someone like yourself.
So I have a protocol idea, and I want to hear what you guys think. Like, if he's a client of mine, and it sounds like you actually do a decent amount of climbing to where we want to be somewhat good at this. It's not like you're just doing this for one time and then you're done. I actually would probably put him only at 1 day a week, and I would run MAPS Performance Foundation 1 day a week. The other day would be a full mobility day, and the rest is climbing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's 100% where I was going.
So it's enough to stimulate. Like, you're not going to lose a ton of muscle. We might sacrifice a little bit, but not a lot. I think you're going to keep the physique you're probably happy with that you built. We're probably not going to make any major gains, but then most of the effort is put towards mobility and then also improving all the things that you need to do for the rock climbing. So that would probably be the protocol that I would throw you on.
Yeah, I like that. And I even like MAP symmetry.
Yeah, I was going to say unilateral training for me, just to address some of these discrepancies you're finding in terms of like one side versus the other, and like how to get more quad involvement, and to slow down and really like the isometric portion in that, especially for you to regain connectivity there and really feel like, you're going to get your quads a little bit more involved in some of these exercises, because you should be feeling your quads when you're squatting, when you're doing step ups, when you're doing lunges, like doing these basic movements with your legs. So spending that extra bit of time to reconnect and tense those muscles up and and really recruit that extra time to muscle recruit is going to be crucial to that.
I agree. And actually, when I was thinking of performance, I'm not thinking phase one. I'm thinking like phase two.
Phase two.
Yeah.
So in phase two,
it's multiplanar.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
So I like the idea that it's unilateral. So I agree with you on the unilateral, and it's multiplanar. So it's going to challenge him in different directions. So I think performance phase two, it'd be kind of where we would live as far as our foundational programming.
Totally.
So that would be the 1 day a week program.
And then the mobility workouts or sessions that are in performance, I would like for you to do those, as often as you can. They should take you about 15, 20 minutes, but those will really improve your ability to utilize your strength in the most efficient way possible. That's what you're really looking at when you're looking at rock climbing or any other sport for that matter. Is yes, I'm strong, but am I efficient with my strength? Because you take a bodybuilder who's incredibly strong, you have them rock climb, they're so inefficient with their strength because they're not trained in that way that they'll fatigue and lose performance dramatically. And then you look at a rock climber who couldn't lift a tenth of the weight that the bodybuilder could, but they climb the wall like they're a spider. So a lot of this has to do with, of course, your technique and practice, but mobility is going to be everything. It's going to be everything. And in fact, that's what's going to help you with this right to left issue as well.
And I think too, like again, stressing the isometric component of like really taking that extra bit and creating a longer hold. So you get more endurance through that grit. So in terms of translation of like how that's going to play out with your climbing, to not get fatigued holding positions in a tense muscle contraction, you can actually train that to extend a bit further. So Like, and that's just something to consider. It doesn't always translate well, like sport versus exercise. Like there's differences there, but in terms of you actually like extending the endurance of being able to hold and control your body, that would be ideal.
Yeah, so a routine would be like 1 day a week, MAPS performance foundational workout, mobility sessions at least once a week, but 2 or 3 would be great. And then 2 to 3 days a week of rock climbing. In fact, if you could do a third day of rock climbing with that, I think that would be 4 days a week of workouts, essentially. Mobility sessions, we don't necessarily need to consider those workouts. I think that would be a really, really good combination of what you're looking for.
So let me ask you guys this. So you mentioned performance, which I've run before, and I liked. If I wanted to kind of work on this leg imbalance, because legs, people think hands and fingers for rock climbing, but you do use your legs a lot. If you're smart, you're using your legs even more, right? Because you're standing up. If I did something like symmetry to kind of work on that, and then I remember in performance, the one thing that really kind of lit up that part of my quad that hurts is the ice skaters, and kind of like maybe replacing something in symmetry with the ice skaters, or just doing it extra.
No, if you already have performance, then we'll send you symmetry, and you can follow one of the foundational workouts from symmetry, and that's all unilateral stuff except for the last phase. And
cool.
And you would be totally set. And then yes, you do use your legs a lot in rock climbing, but if you look at the top rock climbers, when it comes to muscle hypertrophy and like strength, it's in their back, it's in their biceps, it's in their forearms, and their legs have a lot of stamina. They don't have big ass quads and glutes. Rock climbing, probably not so good.
Such a strength to weight ratio thing.
Yes.
Like to his earlier point of you maybe even leaning out a bit more and getting, more just strength focused, but necessarily not putting on mass. Like, that would be ideal.
Yeah, there's a level in rock climbing where you're climbing so much stuff that's overhanging that it's all pulling yourself in. I'm not looking to be that level because it's kind of insane, but for me, like I said, it's a lot of it's more the leg stamina because you're hiking up these slopes that are miles long before you even start climbing. Oh yeah. And that's where I'm kind of getting crushed.
Yeah. If you feel fatigue, I know what you're talking about, that fatigue sense. There could be just a straight strength imbalance, but it's probably more of a stability thing that's happening. So because of the lack of stability, muscles are they're just working overtime.
Getting addressed with your unilateral.
Yeah, unilateral work take care of that.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, you're going to get both that. He's going to build strength and he's going to build stability by running that program. So I think that's the recommendation. That's the way to go. I think the only thing that a client sometimes in your case would be fearful of, because you did so much good work of building the muscle, is that, oh my God, I'm going to shrink or I'm going to lose all this great work. You won't. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
Your hormones are optimized. You did a lot of good work putting that muscle on.
you're fine.
You'd be surprised just the one foundational day a week, because it's not like you're not active. You're still stimulating those muscles as you're rock climbing and doing other stuff. I just think you might be a little bit overtrained, and there might be a little bit of an instability thing going on right now.
Okay, so I'll stop anabolic. I'll start doing symmetry.
You got it.
What do you think? What do you think about after? So the rock climbing season's basically spring and fall mostly. Summer and winter are kind of rough. What do you think about running symmetry, and then in the winter I bought Powerlift, running that in the winter, and then swapping back to something? And
I love that,
because I would like to keep some muscle up.
Yeah. What I think would be good would be when the season is over, run symmetry as it's laid out. So it's 3 days a week, it's full workout, and then follow Powerlift. Just because what you said about your how you're offset with your squats and stuff, sounds like you've been training that way for a while. You probably benefit from training symmetry for a while.
But I love this idea of treating it like seasons like that.
Totally.
There's a time for you
That's
to get
the best way to do it.
Yeah, there's a time for you to get after it. Let's try and pack some muscle on, get stronger. And then there's times to optimize the workout to, complement your rock climbing. Right now it's optimized to get the best out of your rock climbing. And then when we get out of that season, then let's get after it with the weights. And I think running symmetry. And by the way, at the end of symmetry is
a 5x5.
It's a 5x5. The last phase is 5x5
bilateral. Push you right into
very
powerlift.
much so like powerlifting. So it's a nice way to transition you right into that.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
You got it, Wade. Thanks for calling in again, huh?
Yep.
Have a good one.
Yeah,
You too, man.
All right.
Take it easy. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny when you look at like different sports and what's valuable and what isn't. Like, if you play football, strength to weight's always important, but weight is also important because you're hitting people.
Yeah, you actually need mass because of all the impact.
Yeah,
So,
but you're climbing, like, you could get bigger and stronger and drop performance because your strength is not efficient for your new weight. So you can actually get stronger in the gym, gain muscle, and get worse at that specific
Yeah,
sport.
it's just not. It's just not a. I mean, the call started with thanking us for the 10 pounds of muscle that he put on. He put on more muscle in this last year than he did in the previous decade. So that is not advantageous for that sport. I mean, of all the sports, putting on 10 pounds of muscle many times will do you well. But and he's not a little guy. You look at him, you can tell he's
got some muscle.
Yeah, he's definitely built. And so and I just think he was actually probably doing a little too much in combination with a little stability issue going on. And I think just scaling back and then doing more unilateral work by itself, I think is going to be the answer.